Hi, I'm Stuart and welcome to the channel. Well, we had a lovely hot summer here in the north of England, so much so that it caused drought conditions. But now it seems to have changed and we've got a lot of cold and rainy weather. I'm still hopeful of getting out sometime before Christmas, but for the moment we're stuck in the garage. So my thoughts were starting to turn to what we can do with Rita and our winter projects. Now, one of the issues with Rita is the suspension is very crude and basic, built down to a price. The front forks are 38mm Paolis, and a lot of trials bikes of the time use them, but these are unadjustable and not able to be changed much at all. Even the spring rate, I can't get a replacement set of springs for it. So if we're going to do anything to it, we're going to need to move to one of the better sets of Paoli 38mm. I say lots of trials bike use them around this period, and most of them have damping control and changeable springs. So I think we'll look for a set of those to graft onto the front of Rita. Once we do that, of course, it's going to show up the Olle shock at the back as again being very crude and poor quality. So I think we need to upgrade that to a better quality shock to try and match the improvement we're going to make to the front. I think over this winter we'll also have a look at this seat. The cover on it is now cracked and splitting, and it's always been really uncomfortable. So I think while the bike's apart, we'll get this off and send it to a local upholsterer for a new cover and maybe some different quality foam underneath there. Right, we're starting off the shock absorber video now, and unfortunately we're starting off with a disappointment. So this was supposed to be an unboxing video of this wonderful present from Hagon. I ordered from them this fantastic stainless steel shock absorber. It's got adjustable damping, all made in stainless steel. They only made it for the Mark II Beta Alp 200, and mine's a Mark 1, but all the dimensions seem to be the same. Sadly, when it's come, the amount of wheel travel allowed by this is much less than the original Mark 1 shock. For some reason they went down to a much shorter wheel travel on the Mark II. So sadly it's not going to work, so it has to go back. Now that leaves us with two choices. Either we can spend £600 for an Olle shock absorber, which, as much as I love Rita, I don't think she's worth £600, or we can try and recondition one of the old shocks I have. This is one I had that I replaced. There's a newer version of this on there, and there is, we talked before about the Splat shop. They actually do a rebuild service where they put all new seals and re-gas them. So what I might do is actually see if I can get this one rebuilt. So the first job is going to be to take it apart and clean it, because at the moment it's disgusting. So the first thing we're going to do is strip down this old shock and give it a good clean. I can't bear to send it down to the Splat shop in this condition. So first thing I have to do is take the spring off. Now thankfully we don't need to compress the spring, because if we back off the preload ring, the whole lot should just come off. Now the preload ring is actually locked by a small grub screw, so we just need to back that out first. Oof, that's very stiff. We'll back that out, and then we can actually undo the adjuster ring. So we've got our special tool for removing castellated nuts, and I've locked this into the vise so that it's not going to move anywhere. So we just need to turn this off. Oh, it's very stiff. Right, so that's now loose, it will come off. Once that comes off, the spring will come off. I might check what rate that is to see if it's the right for my weight again. Right, that's the horrible shock absorber. So, next job, give it a good clean up. Right, not perfect, but it's a hell of a lot better than it was. Next job, I'll take the bearings out of the bottom and top. Right, we're all cleaned up now. It's at least not too embarrassing to send that off to be repaired. The main thing is that the shaft is in really good condition, nice, no pitting at all on the chrome. If that's gone and rusty, then pretty much the shock is dead. But this is good. So the next thing we're going to do is take the bearings and spacers out. I'm going to put new bearings in when it comes back, so there's no point in worrying about the condition of these. So we might as well knock them out. So I've pulled the spacers out already. The spacers are just there to make the mount wide enough to fit into the shock mount on the bike. So we don't need those. And then to push the bearing out, we're going to use two sockets. One which is the right size just to sit against the bearing, and then one on the other side which is large enough for the bearing to pop into. Now what you really have to watch out for on these shocks is that the bearing only goes in from one way, and I can't see which way it is from this side. So what we're going to do is push the bearing, and if it doesn't go, then stop and try it the other direction. Right, so set up with the vise. We're going to put the larger socket on the outside of the bearing mount and the small one sitting against the bearing. This way you need 3 hands to get everything lined up and tighten the, there we go, tighten the vise up. So we'll try pushing, and that's not pushing out, so we're going to go with the other direction. So that's pushing through now. Just keep going until the bearing pushes out of the far side, like that. And out of that one comes our knackered bearing. Right, do the other end. So once again, I'm going to pull the spacers out. I'll simply jam them in the vise and get a good grip of them, and then wiggle the shock until they give up. So that's the spacer. We'll save those, we'll reuse them. Take out the dust seals. See if you can see which side it's stepped from this time. Right, I think this is the step side. Once again, big socket to receive, small socket to push through. Tighten the whole lot up. That's it. Through it goes. Pops. There's our dead bearing again. Right, so I think that is now stripped down as far as it needs to. We'll send it off to get it repaired. Right, I've heard from Splat Shop that they can repair my shock absorber, so it's time to think about what we're going to do with this spring. It's quite rusty, there's bits of coating flaking off it. So I think what we need to do is have this shot blasted and recoated, and it'll look like new. Let's go get that done. Right, we've got all the parts now for our shock absorber, so it's time to start putting it back together again. So we've got the bearing spacers, we've got the actual bearings themselves. Now, the ones I would normally use are GE12ES. It's a spherical bearing, and what you have to do is you have to pack them full of grease and then put a rubber O-ring around it to stop any dirt getting in, which isn't really satisfactory. But now I've found these, they're called GE12UKs, and they're sealed for life. They have a PTFE band around them that keeps the grease in. I'll put up a picture of it. So with those, I now don't need to grease them, and I don't need to put anything on there to stop the dirt getting in. We just put them straight on the bike and leave them as is. We've got the shock body itself with the damper. It's now been revalved. It had new oil in it and it's been regassed. And the splat shop, if you can see that, I've put a little valve on there so it can be regassed if it ever needs it again. So that's all done. And we have our spring back from the powder coaters. Now it's actually not black, it's in a fetching colour of dark grey. And the reason for that is, quick tip, if you go to a powder coaters and you want it back quickly, just ask them what are you doing this week in terms of colours, and just choose one of those. They'll put it in with that batch and you'll get it back a lot better, a lot faster. Sometimes you might even get it a little bit cheaper as well. So it's underneath the bike, it's not seen by anyone. Apart from having it in fancy all-in yellow, it didn't really matter what colour I got. So that's all nicely done. It was shot blasted and powder coated in this, I say, this fetching charcoal grey. Right, let's put it all together. So we're going to start by pushing in the bearings, and I say if you look in the eye, you will actually see there is a lip in there, so they have to go in from this direction. So we have a socket of the right size. Again, we need 3 hands here to put it all together. Line everything up, make sure the socket's seated there, and just push it home. It should go in quite easily. Right, do the same with the other end, get everything lined up again. And gently push it home. Right, with the bearings pushed in at both sides, we can now put the spring back on. Just a simple matter of sliding it on, seating it on the cup there, and then driving on the top ring. Now, we'll actually set the preload once it's on the bike and once we're able to sit on it. So what we're going to do is we'll just put 20mm or so of initial tension on it, just so that we know where we are. Right, we've got our special spanner. We'll just hold it in the vise and just tighten it up. Now that everything's clean, this should go on a lot easier than when it came off. Right, I think that's enough just to get it started. As I say, we'll do the proper tensioning once it's on the bike. Right, the final job is to put the spacers into it, and these simply push into the bearing just to stand it off. We'll just give it a squeeze in the vise just to make sure they're properly seated. Yep, that's all good. And you can see there the spherical bearings actually give it a little bit of movement, so if the shock moves slightly it'll stay aligned. I just do the bottom ones and we're done. So there we go, one shock absorber ready to go back on, and hopefully an improvement over the old one. Job done. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and that's all from me. Until the next time.